Hello, everyone, and I'm going to talk to you about the film I picked for our cult film presentation, Clerks, directed by Kevin Smith of View Askew, a production with the log line, "Just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you." A little bit about the director, Kevin Smith. He's from Red Bank, New Jersey. He was kind of like most young adults in the '90s, kind of adrift. He had convenience store jobs for most of his working life, but when he turned 21, he went to see uh, Richard Linklater's Slackers, and that was a formative moment for him. He had never seen a movie that like that. It didn't really have a story or a narrative. It was just like a day in the life of people walking around talking to other people in Linklater's hometown of Austin, Texas. And he came out of that movie saying, like, well, I think I want to make that. I can make that type of movie. Um, and so he went to film school up at Hudson Valley Film School, and where he met Scott Mosier and Dan Klein, who later um, collaborated with him in the making of Clerks. But he dropped out of film school for after 4 months because they were teaching a lot of film theory and no practical filmmaking, and which was not what he wanted. So he went back to his convenience store job in Red Bank, and surprisingly, that's where the convenience store where he filmed Clerks. So the film was shot in the convenience store he worked at. Mostly at night when the store was closed, he convinced the owners of the convenience store to let him film when the store was closed, which made it helped him keep the cost down. And seeing that the film was self-funded, he maxed out several credit cards and he sold his prized comic book collection to get the movie the about the $27,000 took to make the movie. Another way he saved money was he he shot in black and white because honestly, at that time, it was cheaper to shoot in black and white than it was in color. He also used a lot of static shots because he couldn't afford like a dolly. He couldn't afford a tracking system, so he just set a tripod and a camera up and he shot in that static motif, which lends itself to this like day in the life guerrilla style filming, which really um, fit his ideas. And then when he cast the film, he picked like his friends. Ultimately, Jason Mewes, who plays Jay in the film, and Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson were people he knew from Red Bank, and therefore he didn't pay them that much to get them to do the movie. It's the film itself follows a day in the life of Dante, who is the convenience store clerk, and his friend Randall, played by Jeff Anderson. Dante's played by Brian O'Halloran, and it really follows their like day of work. Dante is called in when someone calls off to work in there, and then he keeps getting screwed by his boss and ends up having to stay the entire day. And it's everything they do to try to make this boring dead end job worthwhile. Uh, and so the reception of the film was Kevin Smith was so surprised at how well Clerks did because he didn't think someone would want to see a movie that only his friends would he thought only his friends would like. But it was really surprising. Roger Ebert, when it came out, called the movie like it had the attitude of a gas station attendant who tells you to change your own oils. It's dirty, grungy, and Dante and Andrew and Randall are like people who were raised on beef jerky and Cheetos, which I thought was a great way to describe the characters. And of course, it was submitted to Cannes, where it won a youth award, and then it was submitted to uh, the Sundance Film Festival, where he won the Filmmakers Trophy in Dramatic. Then it was optioned by Miramax to be distributed nationally. There was a small hiccup with the with the censorship because it had so much foul language. It got an NC-17 rating, which therefore he had to go back and make it an R rating so it could actually play in several more theaters across the country. And then the success of Clerks gave Kevin Smith the ability to create several movies based around these Red Bank characters, especially Jay and Silent Bob, which is just Silent Bob is his uh, somewhat mute character in all the films that uh, is kind of the director on screen. In several films, it is apparent that's exactly what it is. So in 1995, he made Mallrats. 1997, Chasing Amy. 99 was Dogma. And then in 2000 and 2001, there was a comic book series that was turned into an animated series, which was yet another more like day in the week of Randall and Dante at the Quick Stop convenience store. And it's very much like little mini Clerks films in an anime structure. And then he made it Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in 2001, Clerks 2 in 2006, Jay and Silent Bob the reboot in 2019, and lastly in 2022 he made the third volume of Clerks. And it's like I think Kevin Smith's reflection about Clerks coming out when it was a demand for representation, a time where dead end jobs and pop culture weren't really referenced in movies, and I totally agree with this. It was a time where the slacker generation who didn't have a voice and didn't even really know if we wanted one, got one in Kevin Smith's Clerks. And I, just like him with Linklater's Slackers, I saw Clerks and saw that's how I can become, that's how where I could be a filmmaker or a director, because I can see the world the way he sees the world, the way he shows the world is the way I see it. And I definitely think this movie went from an indie film because it had a low budget. It was definitely transgressing about what movie making was at the time in the 90s to being cult by the fandom it created. And for those of us who are fans, I will sign off with Snoochie Boochies from Jay and Silent Bob, played by Jason Mewes. And this is my works cited. And of course, these are all the films. And I thank you and good night.